I was the one holding it all together behind the scenes, paying their bills, staying quiet, never asking for credit. But when I tried to come home for my mom's birthday, my dad told me I was an embarrassment. So I vanished. I cut the payments, cut the contact. I let the silence speak for me. You know, it's funny how a single question, just one innocent line, can change the way your entire family sees you. For me, it started when I casually asked my dad, "Are we inviting the extended family to mom's birthday this year, like we usually do?" What I got in return was a sentence that hit harder than I ever expected. "See, you showing up is just an embarrassment to the whole family." I didn't have a comeback. I didn't argue. I didn't scream, I just went quiet. That kind of quiet that creeps into your bones. And then I did something simple. I logged into my bank account, found every bill I'd been covering for them. Electricity, water, internet, all of it. And shut down the payments I'd been making silently for over 2 years. A month later, they started to realize just how much I'd been doing. But by then, the switch had already flipped inside me. I didn't answer their calls. I didn't respond to their apologies, if you can even call them that. I chose myself, maybe for the first time in a long time. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Ethan, I'm 30, and I live in a quiet town just outside of Seattle, about a 50-minute drive if the traffic isn't being its usual self. Every morning, I brew my coffee, check the weather out of habit, and walk the 10 or so meters to my office. I co-founded a small tech company that works in renewable energy, though most folks, including my family, still seem to think I'm some kind of handyman fixing wires and oiling machines all day. I don't bother correcting them anymore, not because I'm hiding anything, but because explaining myself never seemed to matter much. Whenever someone asks about my family, my parents, or my older sister Rachel, I usually just give a little half smile and say something like, "It's been a while since we talked." Then I move on. No drama, no long story, not because there's nothing to say, but because I've grown tired of repeating it. It's been over 2 years since we last spoke. No texts, no calls, no birthdays, just silence. It didn't used to be that way. I used to believe that family meant something, that being there for each other was the bare minimum. That belief held strong until 2 years ago, right before my mom's birthday. I had just booked my flight, taken time off from work, and was looking forward to helping out like I did every year. I wasn't planning anything extravagant, just showing up early, helping with the usual setup, doing my part. I figured I'd let them know, so I called my mom. But my dad picked up. "Hey, I'm planning to come in a couple days early," I told him, keeping it light. "Let me know if you need anything from the store or want help getting stuff ready." He hesitated. First, it was this vague kind of pause, like he wasn't sure how to respond. Then his tone shifted. There was a heaviness to his voice, something unfamiliar. "Ethan, if it's possible, maybe don't come home this year." At first, I assumed he was worried about my schedule or the cost of the trip. "No worries, Dad," I said, still holding my coffee. "Everything's already arranged. I've got it covered." The silence that followed was longer this time. "Rachel's bringing her boyfriend this year. He's a manager, someone who carries himself well. He speaks properly. Your job, it just doesn't reflect well. It'd be better if you weren't there." My chest got tight, the back of my neck burned. I clenched the coffee mug without realizing it. I stared at the wall in front of me and asked, almost in disbelief, "Did you really just say that?" He didn't walk it back, didn't soften the words. Just said it. Sharp and plain. "You coming would embarrass the whole family, and if you insist on coming, then don't call me your father." And then he hung up. Well, just like that. Well, I stood there in my apartment, frozen. The silence around me was deafening. No TV, no background noise, just the echo of what he'd said, ringing again and again in my head like a bad voicemail I couldn't delete. "You'd embarrass the whole family. Don't call me your father." It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a slip. He meant it. And right then, something in me stopped turning, like a gear that snapped clean off. I didn't react right away, not with rage, not with tears. Instead, I sat down, opened my banking app, and just scrolled. Slowly, deliberately, not to distract myself. I was looking for something specific. Numbers. I wanted to know, how much had I spent on my parents these past 2 years? Not gifts, not favors, just the basics, the bills. Electricity, water, internet, essentials. Nearly $400 a month. On the dot. Every month. Never missed a single one. All on autopilot. Quiet. Reliable. At the very bottom of the transaction list was a total that made me pause. $10,456. I didn't flinch. I didn't feel regret. Not even anger. Just a sort of stillness spreading through my chest. The kind of stillness you feel when you finally let go of something heavy you've been carrying too long. The K. Almost 10 grand. Gone. Not because I was asked nicely, not because I was guilted into it. Just because they needed help, and I didn't think twice. Bondis Jess. And now, I was the shame of the family? Og rates was ga. That number kept staring back at me like a question I hadn't dared ask until now. Has Rachel ever done anything close to this? Not from resentment. Not because I wanted a gold star, but because I honestly didn't know. I wasn't trying to keep score. I just wondered. I'd been doing all this behind the scenes. Every bill, every month, without a thank you, without a mention. And her? Had she ever once offered to cover something? Or was her version of helping out, showing up in a cute dress with her boyfriend on her arm while everyone gushed over how amazing she was? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. In our family, fairness was never in the equation. Growing up, I got used to the sidelines. In family pictures, I was often off to the side, half out of the frame. Never pushed away, not really. But never asked to step forward either. Rachel, though. She was the star of the show, the golden child. Birthday parties, graduations, heartbreaks, you name it. Every family event revolved around her. Even her breakups came with balloons and sympathy cards. Me? I honestly can't remember the last time someone asked if I was okay. She's 2 years older than me, but the difference between us has never been about age. It's been about expectations. She was the future, the one they bragged about to the cousins and the aunts and uncles. And me? If I came up at all, it was usually something like, Ethan? Oh, he's fine. Doing something with computers, I think. I really used to believe that if I worked hard enough, kept my head down, did the right thing, maybe they'd finally see me. Maybe they'd say, hey, he turned out all right. But that day on the phone? That was the wake-up call. They didn't see me. Not really. And when you're invisible, your absence doesn't even make a sound. I started paying those bills after a conversation with my mom, back when they were struggling with their retirement income. She mentioned, softly, that the bills had jumped up that month, said things were getting tight. If you could help us out, just a little, it would mean so much. And I said yes, just like that. Pretty too. At the time, I figured it'd be temporary. A few months. Maybe until they figured something out. But the months turned into a year. Then 2. No one ever brought up ending it. No one said, hey, thanks for helping, let's take this back over now. I'd ask occasionally, is Rachel chipping in at all? And every time, Mom would dodge. Your sister's covering Dad's medical stuff. Just this month. She'll help next time. I heard so many versions of those same excuses, I could have written a script. Raise ya. But I never pushed. I didn't want to be that guy. So I just kept paying. Quietly. Month after month. I wasn't doing it for praise, I wasn't doing it to hold it over their heads, I was doing it because I thought it was the right thing to do. That's what good sons do, right? Lassi paksa beya. Even now, after everything, it's not the money that stings. It's the realization that even after all that effort, they looked at me and saw an embarrassment. They talked about me like I was a blemish. Dowha. And that's when something shifted. Dowha. I didn't rage. I didn't explode. Dowha. I just sat on the couch, holding my phone, feeling nothing but this overwhelming clarity. This is enough. I opened the banking app again. Scrolled to the section with the monthly payments. Electric. Water. Internet. One by one I tapped each one. Cancel. 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 Not to punish them. Not out of revenge. I just needed to protect the one thing they hadn't taken from me yet. my dignity. 3 weeks after I canceled the payments, the day finally arrived. My mom's birthday. And just like every other year, they went ahead with the celebration. Her favorite roasted chicken. That same vanilla cake from the bakery downtown. A handful of relatives gathered around the dining table, probably making small talk over paper plates and wine that was a little too sweet. Everything looked just as it always had, except for one thing. I wasn't there. At exactly 6 p.m., I was sitting on my couch, staring into a mug of coffee that had gone stone cold hours ago. My phone lit up. Mom calling. I looked at the screen for a few seconds, then set it face down without answering. I didn't hesitate. Not because I was angry. By then, anger had burned itself out. I just didn't see the point. In seconds, a few minutes later, my dad called. Then Rachel. 3 calls within 10 minutes. All ignored. Then seconds. I leaned back into my chair, eyes drifting to the foggy window. The sky outside was washed in gray, one of those bone-chill afternoons where it's not raining, but everything still feels soaked in cold. Then the text started. First up, my mom. Ethan, the power's been shut off. The whole house is dark. Can you pay the bill, please? I read the message. Didn't react. No anger, no surprise. Just this quiet ache in my chest, like the echo of something I'd carried for too long. The kind of hollow that shows up when you've spent years holding everything together, only to realize you were the only one trying. Then came my dad. No water, we can't cook. Handle it now. Still no apology. No mention of what he said last time we spoke. Just another order barked into the void, like nothing had changed. And then Rachel. Internet's down. Guests are arriving, please fix this, urgent. I glanced at the clock. 7:25 p.m. It hit me then. I had shut off every payment exactly 3 weeks ago, the same night my dad told me not to come home. Now, right in the middle of the party they didn't want me at, everything was unraveling. Load. Power. Water. Internet, back. All gone. Just when they needed them most. Load. I didn't text back. Didn't call. Not out of spite. But because I didn't feel like explaining myself anymore. Not to people who only remembered me when the lights went out. About an hour later, my phone buzzed again. A lot. But now it wasn't just my parents or Rachel. It was the extended family. The ones who pop up during holidays to eat your food and critique your life from the couch. One message called me selfish. Another accused me of humiliating my mother. Someone else even wrote, "Your sister was right. People like you shouldn't show up on special occasions." I scrolled through each message without replying. Not because I was numb, but because I'd stopped justifying myself to people who always sided with the loudest voice in the room. Just as I was about to silence the phone for good, another call came in. Aunt Karen, the only person who had ever made an effort to actually know me. She was calling through some old video app only the two of us still used. I hesitated, then picked up on the second ring. Nye. Her face flickered onto the screen, dimly lit by the warm kitchen behind her. It was a familiar place, every chip tile, every creaky cabinet. But tonight, it felt different. Foreign. I could hear the clinks of forks, the low hum of conversations behind her. She looked at me, concerned, but soft. Ethan, you're really not going to pay it? No accusation, just a genuine question. The kind that only comes from someone who still believes in you, even when everyone else has made up their minds. Billy should have our minds. I looked her in the eyes and said quietly, "You know what, Auntie? Dad told me not to come. Said if I showed up, I shouldn't call him my father anymore." She didn't say anything right away, just turned slightly, as if looking around the room behind her. Alright. And that's when the background noise broke apart into chaos. Alright. My mom's voice pierced through first. Tell him I'm ashamed. How could he do this today of all days? Then my dad, sharp and impatient. It's just a few bills. What kind of man holds a grudge over money? Another voice. I think my uncle. Muttered. Poor Rachel. Imagine having a brother like that. Footsteps clacked toward the camera, and suddenly Rachel appeared behind Aunt Karen. Arms crossed, lips twisted with that same exasperated look she used to give me when we were kids. He actually answered the call? Mom's been crying. He doesn't even care. I stayed silent. Not because I had nothing to say, but because saying anything in that moment would have meant giving them power over how I felt, and I wasn't handing that over anymore. Then, out of nowhere, a new face appeared in the frame. John Tenney, gas Kavranian, Don Tenney, neatly styled hair. Wearing a fitted dark suit, Don Tenney. He looked at me, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Then, offered a hesitant smile. Hey, boss. I froze. My grip tightened on the phone without meaning to. Hamalaiba. That was him. The boyfriend. Rachel's boyfriend. The one my family had been so eager to impress. The reason they told me to stay away. I hadn't realized until just then. He was one of our newer hires, transferred from our southern office. We'd emailed a few times. He'd submitted a couple reports. But I never put it together. The room behind Aunt Karen fell into stunned silence. I could see her glance nervously behind her. And then the murmur started. Wait, what did he call Ethan? Boss? Is he her boyfriend's boss? Their voices overlapped in confusion, like a pot starting to boil. And then the boyfriend straightened up and said it clearly for everyone to hear. I work at Pacific Terratech. Mr. Ethan is one of the company's co-founders. The room went still. Not awkward. Just stunned. Like the truth had dropped into their laps, and no one knew what to do with it. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. I just gave a small nod. A quiet confirmation. The guy turned back to me, a little pale now, and I said simply, "Hope your big introduction goes smoothly." Then I ended the call. Pesal Huntry. That night, I slept like a rock. No overthinking. No late-night questions. Pesal. Just peace. Pesal. When I hung up that call, I didn't feel vindicated. Pesal. I didn't replay the moment or try to guess what they were all saying after the screen went dark. Ma. I just sat back, exhaled, and let the silence settle in. Ma. Not the kind of silence that feels lonely. This one felt earned. Clean. Like I'd finally laid something to rest. The next morning, before the sun had finished creeping through the blinds, I woke up like usual. Coffee. Inbox. Routine. Hasai. Mixed in with the standard meeting reminders and department updates was an email from someone I didn't recognize at first. Tyler Grant. I opened it, not expecting much. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were Rachel's brother. I've always respected you at the company. My eyebrows lifted. Hudson. Rachel's boyfriend. The reason I was told not to show up was writing to me. He said he was genuinely caught off guard when he realized I was related to her. Said the pieces didn't click until that moment on the call. And then, without sugarcoating it, he added, I didn't expect her to be like that. I'll be ending the relationship. He even thanked me for not putting him on the spot, even though I easily could have humiliated him in front of everyone. I rested the phone against my chest for a minute. Not smiling, not emotional. Just still. Then I sat up and typed a response. Carefully, calmly. Hudson, that's your decision to make. I don't expect anyone to adjust their life to stay on my good side. Think it through. And for the record, I keep family and work separate. I hit send and didn't think twice about it. Astaltalt. The moment was over. I'd said what needed to be said. No drama. No lingering resentment. Around 10 a.m., just after I wrapped up a morning meeting, my phone buzzed again. Rachel. Her name flashed on the screen for a few seconds before I hit decline. Not out of anger. Just tired. Tired of conversations that only ever happen when something went wrong. 5 minutes later, a text came in. I'm sorry. I didn't think Hudson would change like that. You're his boss. If you talk to him, maybe he'd listen. Please ask him to come back. I stood near the hallway window, read the message twice, and shook my head. Not in disbelief, but in recognition. This was just another version of the same thing I'd heard my whole life. You can fix it, right? Use your position, your silence, your patience, just one more time. So I typed back. Hudson didn't walk away because I told him to. He left because of how you treat people, because of the way you look down on what you don't understand, because you assume that if your voice is soft enough, people won't notice the manipulation. I sent it. No punctuation to soften it, just the truth, laid bare. I slid the phone back into my pocket, like I was closing a drawer. Alunchu. Less than a minute passed before another text came through. I know I messed up this time. I mean it. I'll change. Please just believe me. One more chance. I didn't respond, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because, this time, nothing stirred in me. I read the words, let them sit for a second, and then quietly deleted the message. Gone. There wasn't a single part of me that felt guilty for it. I wasn't cold. I was clear. Sometimes, the real distance between people doesn't show up in how far they are apart. And Shayali Shudai. It shows up in when the apology finally comes. Milidai Thimehur. And if it only shows up after everything's already shattered, then it's not really an apology. It's damage control. About a week later, on a chilly Friday afternoon, I pulled into the driveway, keys still in hand, when I saw two figures standing at my front door. My parents. Each of them had a small suitcase by their feet, and neither one looked particularly comfortable. It wasn't the jet lag. It was something heavier, like they knew this wasn't going to be an easy visit. I didn't ask why they were there. If they'd flown across the country, it wasn't just a casual drop-in. I unlocked the door, let them in without a word. Not cold, not warm, just neutral. I didn't want to have a conversation on the front porch with the wind picking up around us. Some things, even tense ones, deserve a little shelter. We sat in the living room. The tea I'd made earlier was still warm on the table between us. No one reached for it. Tatark. My dad spoke first. His voice was calm, softer than usual. Tatark. He apologized. Mistor. Then my mom followed suit. She said they'd been thinking about everything. That maybe things had gone too far. That the situation shouldn't have escalated like it did. I let them talk. Didn't interrupt. Didn't react. I was listening, not to the words, but to see if there was something behind them. Was this really closure, or just another setup? And right on cue, my dad's tone shifted. Just enough. We're family, Ethan, and family takes care of each other. We raised you, put you through school, everything you have now. We were part of that, right? I didn't move. My expression didn't change, but I sat up a little straighter. Then my mom jumped in, gently, as if she was suggesting something totally reasonable. If you could maybe send us around $2,500 a month, just to support us a little. It's not much for someone like you. I looked at the two people sitting on my couch. Maybe he'd. The same two who once told me my presence was a liability. The same two who made sure I knew I wasn't welcome at my mother's birthday. Amen. And now here they were, casually assigning a monthly price to their apology. $2,500. Because, in their eyes, my success wasn't really mine. It was something I owed them. I let out a short laugh. It wasn't loud or bitter, just a breath of disbelief. The kind of laugh you let out when someone hands you a story that doesn't line up with reality. They looked at me like they were waiting for a nod. Some small sign I'd agree. Keve. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. Keve. I leaned back into the chair and said clearly, my voice steady. What about Rachel? How much is she going to contribute each month? Silence. My dad glanced at my mom. She lowered her eyes and replied, soft and careful. Your sister's job. It's still unstable. And the breakup with Hudson really took a toll. I nodded slowly. Same old story. Different packaging. No. Excuses dressed up as empathy. Her pain, her instability, her never-ending list of reasons why the rules don't apply. I looked them both in the eye and said, if she agrees to contribute $2,500 a month, I'll do the same. No more, no less. They just stared at me, like they weren't sure if I was bluffing or serious. So I added, calm as ever. Or, if you want me to carry the full amount, you'll need to sign something. A legal agreement. That when you both pass, the house will come to me, fully. Then I stopped talking. No drama, no threats, just a firm offer. The first time in my life, I was the one setting the terms. Mitas, laru. The room went heavy with silence. Dense. Thick enough to cut with a knife. Mitas stayed up. Then my dad stood up. Fast. Too fast. Me tast. He slammed his palm against the table. The teacup rattled, tipping slightly, spilling down one side. His voice boomed through the room. You're setting conditions for your parents? We raised you for over 20 years, and now you want to nickel and dime us? What kind of life are you living, huh? He was full on yelling now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the neighbors caught every word through the walls, but I didn't flinch. I just sat there, hands resting calmly on the chair arms, eyes on his, not defiant, just done. When he finished shouting, I stood up slowly. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. I think you should both leave. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't dramatic. It was just final. A boundary, drawn with clarity, not spite. Neither of them said anything after that, just the sound of suitcases rolling across the floor, and the quiet click of the door closing behind them. It's been 2 years since that day. Kalia. 2 years since my parents stood in my living room, shouting, bargaining, and leaving with their luggage instead of my support. I haven't seen them since, but I didn't block their numbers. Didn't change my email. I didn't slam the door and lock it forever. I just stopped reaching out. I gave them space. Not out of anger, just to see what they'd do with the quiet. Would they fill it with growth? Regret? Maybe even a sliver of understanding? But the silence stayed exactly that. Silent. No check-ins. No holiday greetings. Not even a, "How are you?" on my birthday. 2 whole years. And not a single moment where they thought to ask if I was doing okay. If I was still breathing. If I still existed beyond what I used to give them. Haki. And for a long time I told myself they'd come around. That one day, maybe, they'd realize how far they'd pushed me and reach out, not for help, but to connect. But they didn't. And you know what? Somewhere along the way, I stopped needing them to. I still live in the same house, still work at the same company. Still get up every morning and make that same cup of coffee. Just the way I like it. Mana. The difference now? I don't spend my life trying to prove I'm worthy of love they're not willing to give. I no longer act like an emotional vending machine. Press the right button, and I'll hand over my time, my money, my energy, that version of me. He's long gone. What I've learned in the quiet is this. Family isn't a debt. It's not a bill that comes due when someone sees your paycheck. It's not something you have to keep earning just because you were born into it. Real family? They don't treat your kindness like a weakness, or your success like something they're automatically entitled to. They see you, not just what you offer. And that realization? It's not sad. It's liberating. Because I spent years believing that saying no to your family made you selfish. Like setting a boundary somehow erased everything they ever did for you. But the truth is, love without respect isn't love. It's control dressed up in family photos and birthday cards. Alessis. I'm not cold. I'm not heartless. I still believe in forgiveness, in people changing, in giving second chances. Alessis. But I also believe that you don't have to bankrupt yourself, emotionally or financially, to prove that you care. Sometimes, loving yourself means walking away from the people who taught you how to doubt your own worth. And I'll be honest, some days it's still strange. There are moments when I catch myself wondering, should I call? Should I be the bigger person? But then I remember, I tried that, over and over. And each time, I was met with silence, excuses, or expectations that I'd fall back into the old role. The helper, the fixer, the one who sacrifices quietly in the corner. Not anymore. Because the silence I live in now, it's not lonely, it's peaceful, and maybe that's what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not loud. Just quiet, clear. 2 years. That's how long it's been since my parents stood in my living room, dropped their apology with a $2,500 price tag attached, and left when I didn't agree to their terms. 2 years since I stopped being their emotional and financial safety net. And in that time, nothing. No calls. No texts. No birthdays. No, "How are you doing?" No, "We miss you." Just radio silence. Like I'd been quietly written out of the script. Like they'd hit delete and never looked back. And honestly, For a long time, I waited. Not with hope, exactly, but with curiosity. Would they ever reach out without needing something? Without turning an apology into a negotiation? But they didn't. And eventually, I stopped waiting. I didn't build a wall. I didn't slam the door shut. I just left it open enough for them to return with something real, if they ever wanted to. They never did. And somehow, that told me everything I needed to know. You see, growing up, I believed family could fix anything. That no matter how broken things got, there was always a way back if you just tried hard enough, gave enough, forgave enough. But somewhere along the line, I realized that belief only works if everyone wants to heal. I still live here, still run my business, still drink my coffee the same way, black, no sugar. The only real difference is the weight I no longer carry. I don't walk around hoping someone will finally say, "You did enough," because now I know I did. I paid the bills, I kept the lights on. I gave quietly, while no one noticed, and I walked away when it became clear that my only worth to them was tied to what I could offer. And for the first time in my life, I chose not to come back just because they snapped their fingers. That wasn't bitterness, that was me finally learning to respect myself. But now I want to ask you something. Was I wrong? Was I wrong for saying no when they asked me for money, even though they once raised me? Was I wrong for stepping back when their version of love came with conditions and guilt? Was I too harsh? Too cold? Or was I finally loving myself at the right time? Tetsuge wan gemai. Because I've thought about it a lot. And here's what I've come to believe. Family is not supposed to be a place where kindness is demanded, where guilt is used as leverage, or where your worth is tied to your usefulness. Family is supposed to see you, all of you, not just what you provide. It's supposed to be a place where "I love you" isn't followed by an invoice or a quiet expectation. All line. And if that's not what you're getting, then walking away isn't wrong. It's survival. So maybe you've been there too. Maybe not exactly like this, but close. Maybe you felt invisible in the very place you were told was your home. If you have, I hope this story reminds you. Your boundaries are valid. Your peace matters. And no matter how late it comes, it's never the wrong time to choose yourself. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment. Share your thoughts. Whether you agree or not, I want to hear it. We don't always get clear answers in life, but sometimes just speaking it out loud is enough. Thanks for staying with me to the very end. There are more stories ahead, some messy, some healing, all real. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.